Thank you so much. I think this is a great idea, JJ, to be able to have babysitting and food, and so thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. Again, my name is Regina Kemble. Our organization is also known as IAAM, so either one. So quite a mouthful, International Athletes Abolition Mission, or IAAM. The mission was founded actually because it started as a small family soccer mission, soccer ministry. My youngest son was very much into soccer, and he wanted to use the world's game to reach out to the world as a way of sharing the gospel. But we very quickly found out that it was also a wonderful way to share information about human trafficking, modern-day slavery, and the truth about the commercial sex industry. So I would love to fill you in on all the details about the mission and all of our different projects and things that we're involved with. However, what I really want to do is to introduce Father Jacob Barasa. Really the aim of our mission is to uphold and defend human dignity. And we are so blessed that at the moment of this meeting, Father Jacob Barasa is here. He's an Augustinian of the Assumption. He's a missionary priest, an Augustinian of the Assumption in Nairobi, Kenya. And we've partnered with him and the Assumptionists to work to uphold and defend human dignity in that part of the world. Father Jacob works tirelessly, and obviously that's why we're here. It's been a long day of mission, a long day of driving, but I can't think of any other place that we'd rather be than here with Spiritual Night, or 5 or 8, however many also are here. And the wonderful thing, I'm going to, again, kind of concede my time to him. And it's funny because here in the United States, we've always been having to say, okay, Father, your homilies are 8 to 12 minutes here, like otherwise, we're in the back like this. But it's wonderful because I told him he had all the time in the world. We're here till 10 o'clock, whatever. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So anyway, Father Jacob Barasa.
I hope you'll understand my British accent. So I'm Father Jacob Weliha Barasa. My middle name means, I wait a bit.
Back up just a little bit. So, yeah, there you go. Okay, you're good.
Okay. My middle name Weliha means abandoned child. I was born under a tree, and my mom gave me that name. It was like circumstantial name. Weliha to mean, oh, my child was abandoned. He was never born in a hospital like others. So I didn't like that name, but after ordination, I accepted. So I belong to the Augustinians of the Assumption Fathers. We are also in Boston with Assumption College, for those who've been in Boston and Starbridge Parish. But I'm also the Assistant Regional Superior of East Africa Mission, where we deal with Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and partly DRC Congo, where we have most of our missionaries from Congo, because our congregation was started in Nîmes, France. It is a French congregation. So we, the English part, we learn French because of the missions and other languages. So after ordination, I was working in DRC Congo, taking care of the boys and girls in the streets in the eastern part of Congo where there is war. And I really suffered, and that was the time I experienced a lot of how human trafficking really works. That we have the militia groups, they stay even in the forests, and most of them are like the army, they train for army, and then they leave the army, so they go just in the forest, they live in Rwenzori forest and all that, and their work is just to come and, to cause animosity and instability everywhere. Some break into houses, raping, doing all kinds of, nasty things. So that was the time when our 3 priests were kidnapped. One had just finished doctorate studies in Rome, and he was assigned to one of the parishes, and the other one masters in in history in Kinshasa. 3 of them were kidnapped by these militia groups, and you are kidnapped and you are trafficked and you are a priest from one forest to another where you will never be seen. Up to today, we've never found our priests. We don't know if they were killed. We always pray for them. When you Google IAAM, you'll always find those 3 priests. We are still praying for them. It was so torturing to me. I was still a seminarian. I was not yet ordained, but after theology. So when I came back to East Africa, Nairobi, when I was appointed, I said, one of our missionaries from Belgium, an old priest, may he rest in peace, he died last year. He bought land for us in Nairobi, the suburbs of Nairobi, where we are surrounded by big slums, like Kibera being one of the slums, and many other slums. So it was really a catchment area where I was working. Initially as a seminarian, now after my diaconate, I was working there. And what I see is really like, you can't stay there. You can't even dress like a priest to walk in those slums. You have to be so ordinary and you have to be like them. They're human beings like us, but I feel like this is where the image of God is threatened the most. This is where I need to work. So since my ordination, I've never worked in a parish. I've always been on the streets walking. And then they assigned me to work in the postulancy, taking care of the young, training young vocations, the brothers. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. But I dedicated myself to work with the girls and the boys, just convincing them. The major problem they have no food, and some of them are bright, but they cannot go to school because they need to feed, they need food, and they need what they can get quickly. So if you say go to school, they will not go to school. And some may finish primary school because we have some other charity organizations like the Guadalupe missionaries, we have the Jesuits, we have the Augustinians, we have the Millie Hill Fathers. We are jointly working together. So you'll find everybody taking his own route, but we are accessing the same people. So I could visit a family, and then you find they live in little shanties. As I proceed, most of these girls come from the streets. They look smart, but if you follow where they come from, you feel like maybe this is injustice, you know? And most of their parents were, you know, maybe the husband died of AIDS, or maybe during the rural-urban migrations, they were looking for jobs, or somebody invited them that I'll be giving you some job. And then you find yourself as a couple on the street in town, and then the husband who was working maybe during construction or something, there is no more job, and then he abandons the wife, he disappears and he starts drinking, and there you have 3 kids or 5 kids. So everything collapses. So you have no way out. And then the mother decides that for me to survive, I should look for menial jobs or small jobs to do it. And somebody convinced, that convincing of this rich guy for this girl to move from the rural area to the urban center, maybe you've left your studies and everything. When you land into such kind of lifestyle, it is so torturing. I was looking at that as we are trafficking. This person is like literally trafficking, but he doesn't know that that's trafficking. And then he will invite another one. Oh, there is a job. Come and help us in the house, or like babysitting or doing that. But at the end of the day, that girl grows up. She becomes an adolescent. You'll find some even getting married at 13 years old, 13, 14. Where will a 13-year-old girl go with a baby? She has never gone to school. So as they keep on multiplying their problems, she starts now looking for jobs, maybe washing clothes for rich families, or but that they don't go far, just within the streets. And there are those who know that, okay, that girl is now growing up. So he keeps monitoring the growth of that girl. And she knows that definitely she will land into washing clothes or doing, so they invite them. That's how they enter into the web of being raped. They have kids, and then they keep multiplying on the streets, and they continue like that, and then they find themselves again on the streets like that. Street boys, street girls. They meet other boys who have no way out. They keep multiplying like that. That's how it keeps spreading like that. So I started rescuing those girls, and it was a difficult job actually, because you have to lure them, then they come to our parish or my congregation or my community. You start enticing them to give them food and free things so that they can detach from where they like. They feel like when you go to the parish, when you go to the father's community, you will get free food and clean food. Then we convince them now to go to school. So I realized the need at that time was to start a high school, so that as we recruit them, as we rescue them, we can take them to school. And that was the biggest challenge. So I did some fundraising with some parishioners and people of goodwill, and we put up the first skeleton. And then these kids, we started now admitting them to school. So how to feed them, how to take them for medication, how to pay teachers and all that became a real problem. So when we started partnering with International Athletes Abolition Mission, that was just at the beginning of our school. And IAAM has done a lot. I didn't know that there were such people on the ground, and what they are doing, they may not be felt, but they have done a great job. Because you look at the uniform that they have, sports outfit, sports equipment, and not just that, sending us material to empower these girls from IAAM. And we felt as a congregation that really we need to partner with them, because part of our message from our founder is that we need to go to the peripheries, to the frontiers where the image of God is under threat and where human rights are being threatened. So we feel like working with them, and through IAAM, when I started coming to the US last year, we had to find, say, okay, as we grow up, we need also like a sister school that we can work together. Now we have a young school in Southern Pines called Father Capodano in St. Anthony of Padua. And we started last year, so sometimes I keep coming to visit that school. As it grows, we work together to partner. You find that most parishes in the US, they have sister parishes in Africa, so that they can hold them, so that they can help them to grow. We do that also in the schools. And most of the time when I come around, Gina and the organizers, whenever they have meetings for IAAM and all that, we go out and we meet families and we talk about this as a problem. The issue of human trafficking. Kenya is a very small country. I come from Kenya. It's a very small and beautiful country, but it is being used with so many neighboring countries for human trafficking, because they access through Kenya. That's why the Al-Shabaab, they find themselves through Kenya to do all kinds of stuff that they want, because we are bordering with them. But US Army and the government, they partner with Kenya in a very strong way to fight the Al-Shabaab and these militia groups that attack Kenya, because America has a lot of investments in this country. And Kenya has like the headquarters of Africa, as small as it is. So we are partnering in so many things. Human trafficking is real. And I can be part of human trafficking directly or indirectly. And sometimes it's so challenging. So right now, what we are trying to see is, now we have that one student. And out of that one, only 5 can pay almost half the tuition fee. And we need more sponsors and benefactors. IAAM is doing that, is sponsoring kids in our school, but IAAM on its own cannot manage that, because we block so many kids, children to come to our school because we cannot manage. Because we stay with them on the campus as priests, we feed them, we provide uniform, each and everything, paying staff, and it's so difficult for us. So we are building networks through families. Every year as I come like twice or thrice, I meet individual families who are sponsoring kids. You can sponsor a child with between $70 to $100 every month. For you, you may look at that as very little money, but for us, it can feed the school for a week. $100. It can feed, we can pay even bills, we can take them to hospital. The other day I was with Jean and I just received a call and they say, you know, 3 girls, they seem to be having attacks. I didn't know that because they come from very poor background. They are never treated. We come to realize they're asthmatic. You know? And when you're asthmatic, you don't know when you'll be attacked, isn't it? So these are some of the little cases that we tackle. And this is a school that we are hoping will be having more than 1,000 or 500 students in the future. And we know that most of our students are going to come from the slums, whether we like it or not, whether we close the gate or not. So we need people of goodwill and big hearts. We don't move around. We have so many ways of accessing people. In the churches, sometimes people use like mission appeal. Mission appeal is one of the ways that people access Christians in first world countries. The most workable way that we use as Assumptionists is meeting the hearts of people, talking to people. It defeats logic. It doesn't speak to you anything when you just go and you drop your money in the basket and you are not so sure where the money is going. That's why for us as Assumptionists, I deal with people. I communicate with people. And that's what we were taught by our missionaries who are now very old. They say, you have to know the people because whoever sponsors a child, whoever sponsors your mission as a missionary, he has to be on the list of benefactors and we have to pray for them. There are special prayers for them every week. So IAAM always has to send the names of those who are sponsoring the congregation and the kids in our communities in Nairobi, Kenya, Tanzania, and Congo. Because we don't just take it for granted. However millions they are, however fewer they are, we have to pray for them. We offer masses for them. And we didn't understand that sometimes you receive a list, like 20 people, every priest you are given like 10 names. That this week you have to pray for these 10 names. Then I came to realize what I'm doing, that's what the missionaries were doing. 10 names is including you, it is including him, her, because this is somebody who supports the mission work. So every year you have to receive, they circulate all those names. Let these names go to Congo, Tanzania, Uganda, in the parishes, in the communities. So when the brothers are saying their vespers or loads or psalms in the morning, midday, and evening, whoever is leading must read those names. I didn't know what that meant. Now I'm already in the system. So that's why I'm also building that network for the Augustinians of the Assumption. And it's a difficult work. I face it tough because even coming to the US, I'm introduced to new food, lifestyle. Eating is really, I'm used to warm, you know, we are along the equator. Here it's very cold. I'm freezing to the bone here. So I feel like I need to just to fly back. It's so hard. So I'm praying that we come out and support the missions. I may not be the last one. Maybe you will be receiving more priests here and there. And sometimes when we talk, when you text somebody saying this is going on in Asia, it's going on in DRC Congo, it's going on where, there is kidnapping, some people don't understand what it means, that there is no water. IAAM is now working on how we can get a well in the school because our girls literally walk, you know, to fetch water from a seasonal river. We rely on rainfall. The place is that is rocky. And we need like $30,000 to drill that water. And then whenever you talk about that, people say, okay, can you check on these funding agents. Can you talk of, that's always the first. It does not mean we are not doing that. We go through the Italian Conference of Bishops, we go through the World Mission, we go through I don't know what, Vision, all those. But you'll find that most of these organizations, they also have their own cartels. They also have their own ways of doing things. It's just like you want to go to a parish for mission appeal, and then they tell you, okay, the diocese has like 70 requests, and we are only going to accept 3. And there you are with Assumption High School with immediate needs. Are you going to survive with that, or you are going to survive with the individual supporter? You are going to survive with that individual person who constantly sends $50. That's why we rely more on individual benefactors. And if there is mission appeal, it supports bigger projects like missions than those individual projects. So as I'm moving around, partnering with Father Capodano in Southern Pines, through IAAM, we are praying that IAAM grows and spreads in the whole country, because what they are doing is really credible job. And we pray that many people may join us in our mission, so that as we defend human dignity in all spheres of life, it could be through Humane Vitae, it could be through pro-life, it could be, because those are the lessons we give to our people. And we empower these families so that when we empower these kids with education, they will go back on the streets and rescue their own parents in future. So we don't want this to be a perpetuation that they are always on the receiving end. We are going to we shall get tired. I'm going to get old, and I don't know what will be going on. So we want to empower them, let them also become the alumni to support others. They learn to be charitable, and then in the long run, they can also rescue their own parents to come out from the streets. So we still rely on your prayers and your support. That's why we are here with Regina, and most of our support come through the IAAM, and I think Gina will explain more about that. Thanks for listening.
Just a couple minutes, Shinji. Just a couple minutes.
Yeah, you're good.
I think it's only 6:40, so.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to tell you about a few of the kind of campaigns that we have that directly support Father Jacob, the Augustinians of the Assumption, and Assumption High School, Nairobi. The vision is that there will be more of these high schools, one in Tanzania, one in Uganda, also run by the Assumptionists. It's very important. I just want to go into a little bit more detail about Al-Shabaab and why it's so important for the Augustinians of the Assumption to be at Kibera, to be in these other slums. So is anybody familiar with just like Kibera? We'll take one. It is a huge, have you ever been there? It is huge, 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 huge. And it's all fenced in. Most of the citizens of Nairobi live in Kibera slum. It is huge. Trash heap, like, when I say trash heap, I'm not talking about, you know how we sometimes build our trash heaps into like we call it Mount something or other. This is a trash heap that's the size of a city. Again, fenced in. The people who live there are fenced in. Just think about that. Think about that for a minute. And so what happens when we send, these little soccer balls over, there are people who go to any part of the slum, stand there with a soccer ball or oranges a lot of times. Stand there, and that attracts people so that they can hopefully begin, students, to build a relationship, because if we're not there, Al-Shabaab is. People always, even here too, when you talk about online grooming of girls or boys, it's really all about having a relationship, feeling that you're connecting with someone, feeling loved. And that's what Al-Shabaab does. They will go there and get there first. We know we have a mutual friend that we also work with, who's a missionary, Brother Jared. He is Anglican. And this is ecumenical work because we have to have common action. We have to take common action against a common enemy. Okay? And this is a spiritual battle. So if you have any doubts about that or you're kind of iffy, I can tell you right now, it's definitely a spiritual battle. So Al-Shabaab will be there, and they would love to form those relationships. And our friend Jared has known and begun to build a relationship with someone, only that they hooked up with Al-Shabaab and came back and blew themselves up. So this is the spiritual battle that we are fighting. In addition to the trafficking, there is a student at Assumption High School right now who was sold by her mother to earn money for the family. What do you do with that? And this is just one corner, one periphery of the world. As Father said, we go to where God is threatened and man is threatened as the image of God. So let me tell you a little bit about some campaigns that are meant to fund specifically Father Jacob and the Augustinians of the Assumption and the high school. A couple of things. First of all, please help yourself to anything on this table. If you'd like to go to Kenya, we have a brochure here about IAAM on mission and some of the missions that we have upcoming for the remainder of the year and into next calendar year. They're over here, so see me about that if you have any interest in that. I would like to get you thinking ahead. We have Christmas cards and all that, but that's coming up so fast. We are really just starting to get out of our hurricane recovery mode. And so really like in the last week or so for us. So we've kind of taken all the Christmas things and really focused on what is most necessary. And Father was already scheduled to be here, and it is all about Assumption High School, Nairobi right now. So I want to get you thinking ahead to Lent. And I know everybody's very familiar with the rice bowls and all that. Well, we have our own. We call them little prayer. I'm sorry, I'm a wanderer. I meander. We have what we call little prayer pots for your Lenten almsgiving. I would love, whether it's in your groups or if you decide for your own family, to have an IAAM prayer pot. They all have different pictures on them, and it goes directly to Father Jacob. Of course, you can make a one-time gift or a monthly donation. It's very easy online. We have some sign-up sheets for that as well, and that goes directly to Father Jacob. We are missionaries, so anything that comes in goes out. I can guarantee you that. The other thing I want you to think about, it's very good at Lent, is we have developed a prayer initiative called Pray Freedom for Captives. There are two things. There is a prayer and study initiative, and there's also a prayer vigil. That is beautiful. If you maybe would want to think about that for, a group of guys. I do the prayer study. I advise that it's men or women. We have done it before with both genders, but I say split them up, works better. But it's a lovely program. It's an 8-session program, again, called Pray Freedom for Captives. That has an action of advocacy, intercession, and awareness. So it combines scriptural study with what's going on in different parts of the world as far as sexual exploitation and other. So it's a very wonderful thing. The prayer vigil, again, is beautiful. If you're interested in putting that together, we can talk. The groups for the study, 3 to 10 people at the most. I think 8 is always a good number for that prayer and study. Let me see. I think that's about it that we have today. But again, you may choose to sponsor a specific student. If you're interested in that, we can talk about that. Just let us know. But really today, we're here to ask for your prayers, and it was just such perfect timing to have Father here Please feel free to talk and ask questions. And again, I thank you so much. Are there any questions? Father, why don't you come back up for questions? Yes.
You may have mentioned it at the onset, but your involvement is locally here in North Carolina with the IAAM program?
Yes, we are local, domestic, and international. But yes.
Specifically, like, do you have like a chapter or an office here in North
We
Carolina?
do. Our office is in Havelock. So we are out of Havelock, North Carolina.
Question for both you and Father. How does this sex trafficking tie into the pornography industry
Thank you for
and
bringing that up.
things like that?
Okay. Do you mind if I come on? All right. So part of what we do is share truth about the commercial sex industry, pornography. You know, I could really be here forever tonight, so I have to kind of limit it. But pornography is the gateway. It is make-believe. It's production, so we say pornography is production. There are so many false messages that we hear, which turn, so part of what we do is address societal messages and mores with those that are more accurate and just. So the pornography industry itself is rampant with trafficked individuals. So there's a lot to talk about there. And it is the foundation of the commercial sex industry, and then things kind of grow from there. So we could spend an awful lot of time about pornography. And in fact, if you would speak about Cardinal Njue and how he was just with Pope Francis and all that.
Yeah, like I think it was last year when Cardinal Njue, the Archbishop of Nairobi, was invited in Vatican during the conference for the bishops on child care, and he was the main speaker on that issue of child. We have the Pontifical Missionary Childhood, PMC. He started that group in Kenya, and I think he was invited on that ground. But you'll find that technology is like everything in the first world country, and it's finding roots in Africa. And when you are closing the doors, the same companies would like to find openings in Africa. And so what you have faced in history is also spreading everywhere, like bushfire. So we look at, for example, the slums. These kids don't go to school. And we have a street, maybe on the street they have movies and they have what? When I when I was a brother, I just wanted to find out what goes on the market, because I was like, people are talking about porn. And I went to the market and I said, okay, I went with one street boy, I think he should be like in 6th grade or what. And then I said, where can you get the special video, because they still use the old video tapes, the big size, the special ones. That child has never gone to school, but I said, you need the special ones? And then I said, yes. He took me to a shop in Kibera slums where it's being, produced in Kibera slum. They don't go to school, but somebody started a business that occupies these street boys and girls. For him, he's making money, even through the poor who have nothing. And it becomes a big industry, because that's where they access those. And they have time, because he knows, even just coming to give in Kenya, we have our currency shillings, to give only 1 bob, 1 shilling, that guy is a millionaire. But what is showing these poor street boys and girls, and what they watch, is what they're going to practice on the streets.
May I add to that? We know for a fact that sexual exploitation is often the price that's paid for the privilege of foraging the trash heap.
So that's how the industry grows, you know, and to fight that really, you know, you can imagine if it's affecting the church. Nowadays we are talking of the church. It's like the church is holy. The church is Christ. You are the church, together we are the church. The church is not individuals. If an individual makes a mistake, it's part of the church, but the church is holy. The church is Jesus Christ himself. Whichever church we can talk of. But look at how the devil is using human sexuality to be like, you know, like the arrow, like the bullet. And all of us, we want to be in that web saying, yes, 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 we are applauding that. We used to have problems that happened in the early centuries, times of St. Augustine, times of, you know, all those early people when they were living. There were problems and there was no media. Isn't it? There was no media. Today there is media. When you do a human act that you know you are responsible as an individual, you are magnified and you are picked. You cannot run away. But we are not saying that these problems are starting yesterday, started yesterday. This is a human problem. It's not a church problem, it's a human problem. Human sexuality, if we don't look at it in the sacredness as a holy, something that was sanctified, that's how we enter into that web and we demonize the church, which is holy, that the church is a problem. The church will never be a problem. I am the problem. You are the problem. Because when you are watching pornography or porn image, that's not the church, it is you. Whatever you are going to do after, from the act, from the habit to the behavior, that's not the church. It is you as an individual. So when you come to church and you are known that you've been doing this, the first thing we shall say, the church. But these are human problems, human issues happening in history. That's why we need to pray for the church. When you are praying for the church, you are not praying for bishops. Bishops do not make the church. Priests do not make the church. Those are human beings. Just like Father Jacob can be found in a mistake as a human person. We do not crucify individuals and then we say we are crucifying. We need to pray for conversion and change your mentality today, because that's where the devil is heading to. That's where the devil is heading. So if we can try to fight some of these evils that are happening through technology, all of us are enslaved in the same technology, in the same internet. And look at the companies. Some of those people working on those companies, are they not Christians? They are Christians. Those people who are working behind the media production, the TV productions, are they not Christians? But look at what they show people. 3/4 is about sex. So is that the church doing that? It's individual, the one who is controlling the technology. But we can be masters again with the same technology. So that's the challenge we need to pray, all of us.
Yes, and part of what we know also, there are people who study pornography, believe it or not. And where we are in today's pornography is, you know, beyond imagination, and probably not to some people, maybe some people in this room. And we often speak to ministerial associations, to churches, and oftentimes even from ministerial associations, right? So that's pastors and ministers and people from all different churches who come together, and it's, so if you have a pastor or a priest who will talk about pornography, who will talk about sexuality from the pulpit, you have to really support that priest and praise him. The studies are out there. We know that up to 60% plus of the people in the pews are using pornography. And guess what? For the pastors, they did a study on the evangelical church, evangelical Protestant churches. It's the same number. 60, we're up to almost 70% 60 to 70%. There was a study that was done regarding conventions. Whenever there was a convention, like of pastors and ministers, the use of pornography went up in the hotels. And I can get the name of the study for you. I've forgotten it off the top of my head, but I can get that for you if you're interested. So this is a problem. Also, we now know, we say that science has caught up to the truth. All the science is there. As there are advances, as Father was saying, in internet technology, so it's also making advances in sociology, anthropology, all of the other sciences, psychiatry, psychology, and we know all of the proof is there now. Now there have been we have about 54 really solid studies. If you would like that list, I can get it to you, that all show the same, lead to the same thing, that pornography is detrimental. The neuroscience now supports that, whether you want to call it, so within the movement, there are people who don't want to call it an addiction, but they want to call it a compulsive use or just pornography abuse. Okay, whatever. But the point is, if you need help, that's fine. And guess what, church? We accept, Alcoholics Anonymous. We have AA meetings. We have NA meetings. We have this meeting. We have that meeting. We better have a pornography addiction recovery support group meeting. And we need to accompany people with love and understand that that could be any one of us. And, bring people in. So one of the things that we do is to help encourage people to start pornography addiction recovery support groups. We have a model program. It's not ours, but it's one that we've practiced and used before. The Catholic Church has plenty. You can just go online and pick one that might work, but I encourage it. I encourage it. And guess what? They're for men and women. 1 out of 6 women now say they have a pornography compulsive use issue. So, okay, that's my pornography. I could just go on and on. That's it on porn for now.
So basically, from what I gathered was that the way that the human trafficking and pornography is tied together is that people are human trafficked and then put on these pornography videos, which they get money. They get money from the videos, right?
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
That's one way. Some of what is uploaded now onto the internet is actual, crime scene footage. There are a lot of other ways within the industry where there's a clear link between pornography and human trafficking. We do know from anecdotal reports and otherwise that people will view pornography and then at some point that's not enough. Now, let me go try that. Well, my wife or my partner or whatever may not agree to do that, so let me go down to, whatever corner I can find people. And we know that everybody on the corner, they don't want to be there, and they're not there on their own. And so what happens every time you spend money, you're not helping her out. Like it's one of the 4, we talk about 4 myths and misconceptions. One is that pornography is a First Amendment issue. We can clear that up. The other thing is, I'm really helping her out. I'm not hurting anybody. Boys will be boys. We really talk about those myths, and it's not me. There are men who will also talk about those myths to men. And so that's something that we can spend time on in the future or whatever. But yes, there are very clear connections. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
If anybody has any more questions, you can talk to them afterwards. I guess we're getting ready to start our tonight's meeting. And you're more than welcome to stay. It's a social meeting, so we encourage everybody to stay and socialize. But I'm going to end the recording. Let's give them a hand.
Just one thing to add. We as Catholics, we are so rich. We are so rich with knowledge, but we don't stir that knowledge. We don't make use of that knowledge. Scholars, even the Protestant churches, they come back to harvest from us, and they profitably use it. But ourselves, we are dormant in the faith. We need that renewal kind of approach to life. We have the humane vitae, you know, the respecting the body, the way Pope John Paul was talking about. And Protestants are using such material for their own good. Ourselves, we are just sitting on them. Humane vitae is there. And all this is just, but rotating, just kind of talking about the same issue. We have the books, but they're just in the shelves. We have not, the culture of reading is dying away because of everything is just internet. Everything is internet. We don't want to read. And what is on the internet is already polluted. It's already manipulated. So we don't get what is genuine. We are just getting what is already manipulated by other people. And yet we have the libraries. If you go to your house and you have your library, ask yourself, how many times do you allocate to read that particular, even just the Bible? We have no time for that. Prayer has just become casual. Mass is just ritualistic, it's just formal. You go to church and you're saying, Father, it is time, 30 minutes. 30 minutes, a really Christian, 30 minutes. Even that priest cannot prepare that homily. 3 readings and preach in 2 minutes. Where under the sun? And you want 30 minutes, and you go and spend hours in the restaurant. Hours and hours. But Mass, so where are our priorities?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would you be willing to pray a blessing over the group?
Oh, yeah.
To say a prayer for us?
Father of mercy, Father of holiness, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for the blessings you are according to us. Thank you for the graces you are granting each one of us, our families, our children, that even the children of our children may be blessed, the later generations all. May you sanctify these members, bless them, and walk side by side with them. Provide for them, give them the sense of sin, give them the blessings that they need, and protect their families against the evil one. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.